Hey guys, I'm IzDaisho, and today I'm going to be doing a deck guide. I know I've been doing the Ender Rank things, and those are pretty close to deck guides, but this is a full-fledged deck guide. And the reason why I'm doing it now is because my video just went live on TopTierTactics.com. So, anyway, it's really pretty cool news and whatnot. But yeah, so we got this whole deck, and I'm going to talk about it. So let's get started here. There's two ways to run this deck. It's just going to be flat out. You can run it some variation in the middle, and maybe that's optimal. Not really 100% sure. I haven't played with. I mean, I played with this deck a lot. I played dozens of games with this deck. But I mean, I don't tinker with it after every game. I tinker with it after every few games or whatever. But this is the way that I've run it, the aggressive version of the deck, which I found to have the most success. The creatures are really powerful, and they're really aggressive, and like you don't really I mean, what I've found is you don't need the gigantic monstrosities that are like Primal Crux, which is just an amazing creature. Primeval Titan, Baloth, Stomper, like all these cards are really good creatures, and they like win you the game when you play them. But I find if you have a combination of like a couple of companions and a Leatherback Baloth, or like a Vine Slasher or Dungrobeld or something like that, then you win the game faster, and you don't give them as much time to react to find answers for all your spells. And you don't let them beat you faster than you can beat them. So the way that I like to run it is aggro, but there is an alternate way to run it, which is ramp, which is also fine. So without further ado, let's get started. Prey Upon. This card is just like insane. By the way, TopTierTactics.com. Go check it out. I'll put the link in the description. You can basically read all this, so if you don't want to watch a 25-minute video and you'd rather read an article, then there you go, just go do that. Or if you'd rather read the article and watch the video, then awesome, more power to you, and you're an absolute legend. Anyway, Prey Upon. Target creature you control fights another target creature you don't control. So basically, removal spell. This card is just amazing. You use your gigantic Baloth, which is a 3-drop, so you can still play it rather early, and you just pick off their useful creatures, like their Crusader of Odric, before it becomes like a 7/7 or whatever, because even if it's a 4/4, then you just kill it. What you do have to know is two things. Number one, this is not combat damage. Combat damage is only when you go into the attack step. I've heard a lot of people get this a little bit mixed up. So that means that Fog Bank, you will be able to kill a Fog Bank with Prey Upon. Then there's also the fact that it is still damage. So your Leatherback Baloth, once it takes 3 damage, it'll still only have, once it takes 2 more damage that turn in combat, if they block with a Elite Vanguard and Ace, then it'll take 2 damage and it'll just die. Another thing that you should note, which is not too relevant, I can't really think of too many creatures with Death Touch. Like, I mean, I know there's the Zathrid Gorgon, but any creature with Death Touch that you use Prey Upon, your creature will die and their creature will die, because it's still dealing damage. So here we go, Prey Upon, awesome card. I'm just going to skip ahead right to Ulvenwald Tracker and just say that this is one of the best cards in the deck. You can come down on turn 1. You don't need to play him on turn 1. It's not really necessary because he's not really going to do much for a few turns. But he just basically allows you to have as many Prey Upons as you like. Not only that, but you can do it at instant speed. So that can be insane. Let's say you swing in with your Leatherback Baloth, and he blocks with 5 little goblins, and he's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. Then you have your Ulvenwald Tracker fight, or not your Ulvenwald Tracker. Let's say you have a random Changeling Chameleon. Changeling Colossus. Chameleon Colossus. That's it. I always mess that thing up. I can't remember that guy's name for some reason. Anyway, you get your Chameleon Colossus to fight a to fight one of the goblins, and then instant speed, you're good. Now we've got, oh well, I skipped Primal Bellow. This card is really interesting because it's obviously extremely powerful. It's 1 mana, and at instant speed, later on in the game, it'll deal 5-6 damage to them, because just toss on an unblocked creature, a creature with trample, becomes insane. Not only that, but you can just kill their creatures. Let's say they have a really strong creature. Let's say they have a Grizzlebrand on the battlefield, and all you've got is your Leatherback Baloth. He's completely tapped out. So you swing in, and then he's like, oh, I'll just block. That's awesome for me. And then you're just like, nope, Primal Bellow, go away. So then they die. Obviously, it's not a great example because he still gains a lot of value out of his Grizzlebrand. But anyway, Garruk's Companion, 2 cost, 3/2 trample. I mentioned this in the article, but in general, if you have a 2 cost 2/2, you're not too unhappy. I mean, obviously, that's about what you should be paying for. The fact that he has some sort of evasion and trample is ridiculous. That means that he's completely insane, and he's a very, very good card. Then you just toss another power in there, and it's just like, why would you not want to run this card? And then the reason why you wouldn't want to run this card is if you're playing the ramp version of the deck, because sure, he will win you, he'll steal you a couple of games, but if that's not your main goal, if you're not like just pumping out early guys trying to win the game quickly, then you're going to have a lot of trouble finishing them off, because then you're going to get those games where you draw 2 Garruk's Companions, and then you deal like 7 damage early before they're able to stave off your attacks, and then you have like a bunch of late drops, and then all of a sudden you have 4 turns in the middle where you're not doing anything, and I really don't like that. I'd rather run ramp spells instead of these guys, or other just big fatties that you can use. Lightning Greaves is a card that it's just... It could have gone in any deck. I mean, it's obviously an artifact. Gives Shroud and Haste. It's useful in any of the creature decks, really. Not really Obedient Dead or Born of Flame. But 0 mana to equip is pretty key here. It means that if you just drop this on... There's no point. If you draw this card, you want to drop it on turn 2 unless they played like a Torch Fiend or something like that. So you want to drop this card on turn 2. Let's say you have a Garruk's Companion or a Lightning Greaves, and you just want to decide which one of these you want to play turn 2. Well, let's do a little analysis. You play the Garruk's Companion turn 2, then turn 3 you play the Lightning Greaves, and then you equip it, and then you swing in or whatever. So you had to basically use your 2 mana the next turn. If you play it the other way around, if you play the Lightning Greaves, then he has the first, and then Garruk's Companion second, or whatever creature you want second. You're still swinging in for more. You get your Lightning Greaves on the table, and you can just start passing that stuff around. And also, your Garruk's Companion does not have a main phase for your opponent where he can use sorcery speed removal on it. So it's definitely way better to just play your Lightning Greaves pretty much all of the time. Even if you have like a Leatherback Bailoff that you say you want to play turn 3, well then you still want to play the Lightning Greaves earlier, because then instead of swinging in for 3 with your Garruk's Companion, you get to swing in for 4 with your Bailoff. So it's pretty much always beneficial to play the Greaves first. Nature's Lore, really good ramp spell. 2 mana, gets a forest, puts it into the battlefield untapped, which is better than you usually expect. You usually expect it to come into play tapped like Rampant Growth. It makes up for the fact that you can only search for forests, but that doesn't matter because we're playing a mono green deck. So anyway, that's that. I only run 2 of them because I sort of want to ramp, but not really want to ramp. You can easily just cut these 2 cards, especially since the highest thing that I'm really getting to is the 5 mana. In fact, I mean, when I wrote the article, I was pretty high on the Nature's Lores, but if you want to run Blanchwood Armor instead, go ahead. You won't have any complaints from me. And then, I mean, of course, there's other things. If you want to, like, it doesn't really make sense to, because it's counterintuitive, but if you want to run, like, a Primal Crux or something like that instead, just to top off the curve instead of Vorapede, then you could, but then it kind of hurts you, because then you're going to get to your 6-drop a lot less. So, a lot of people are, I know a lot of people are going to complain, and they're going to be like, IzDaisho, why are you not running 6-drops? And the thing about this deck is, okay, so a lot of the decks have 25 forests. This one only has 25 lands. This one only has 24. So that means that you're going to draw your lands less often than you will with the other decks. And that basically just means that you're not always going to hit your land drops every single turn. So you're not going to be playing land drop 6, aka Primal Crux, turn 6 every game. You're going to be playing it maybe every 3 games on turn 6, then maybe every 2 games on turns, and then, so basically if you're not getting hit your Primal Crux till turn 8 or turn 9, then that is just not good, because you want to have won the game by then already. So this basically, running the deck this way enables me to win the game by turn 6 and not have to worry about cards like Primal Crux clogging up my hand, because I am already winning the game by the time I'm even going to be able to play him, especially if it's not turn 6. If it's turn 7 or 8, then it's definitely not going to be. Anyway, Primordial Hydra you might think is a little bit counterintuitive. The fact that this card just wins the game so easily by itself, it just basically automatically eats a removal spell if your opponent has one. If not, you just win the game, so that's fine. You can cast it whenever. It doesn't matter. You don't have to wait until it's like a 7/7 to cast it. If you cast it turn 3 or turn 4, it's either of those two are the same. then it just goes off really, really quickly. Obviously, if you just top deck it late and they've been dealing with your board the whole time. Like, worst case scenario, though, is that you have to cast him turn 3, and then he's a 4/4 attacking turn 5, which is not great, but still definitely got to keep both of them in the deck just because of their explosive potential. Vine Slash Okuzu is really good. He's another 2-drop in addition to the companions that you want to be playing, and he gets decently sized pretty quickly. Again, as I was saying before, 2/2 for 2 is not bad, and that's why I'm running him, because that's really what I expect him to be. The first time he attacks, he's a 2/2 for 2. If my opponent has blockers and I have to wait a turn and make him a 3/3, then that's fine. I'm willing to do that, but I'm not expecting this guy to be a 7/7 or anything. He just works really well with the Nature Slur if you top deck that late, so that's good too. Anyway, Dungrovelder is insane. He's a 3-cost 3/3 hexproof, which is great because I also run the 4-cost 3/3 hexproof. And then he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you win the game. Leatherback Baloth is like, I mean, just look at that guy. He's such a boss. 3 green, so that's why he's not really he's not like a rare or anything. He's just an uncommon because he costs green, green, green. So it's kind of hard to play him on turn 3 in most decks, but in this deck you have no trouble doing that because all you're playing are forests. So anyway, he's a 4/5 for 3. That's exactly what this deck wants. It wants just 3 drop. Well, I mean, that's the real problem. There's only 4 3-drops in the deck, so that makes it hard to run as an aggro deck. But you just want to be pumping out early guys and just saying, "Go, my friends, attack!" I mean, obviously you can have the Primordial Hydras as 3 drops because that's the time you can play them. So then that's like 6 3-drops. So that's not the worst thing. But anyway, unfortunately, it's just like 4 and 5 drops that really clog up the deck, which makes it a little bit counterintuitive to run the deck as aggro because it's really like mid-range aggro, so you want to be winning the game by turn 5 or turn 6. You want like 1 swing or 2 swings with your 4 drops, which are extremely powerful to win you the game. Chameleon Changeling Kamalasis. This card is a 4/4 for 4, can get gigantic, like insanely gigantic, and it's got pro black. So Primal Bellow plus this card equals you win the game pretty much if he gets in. So that's kind of insane. But basically they just have to block this guy every time. They just have to. They have to chump block him at least. Fortunately, he has no trample, but he'd be insane if he had trample. Fingered Firstborn is amazing because he just pumps your attackers, which is like, thank you, I have more. It's just one of the most aggro cards in the deck because turn 5 you're swinging in. Say, I mean, if you got lucky, then you got you got to play Baloth and a 2-drop, or like a Dungrovelder or Kuzu or Primordial Hydra or Gary's Companion. He also speeds up Primordial Hydra, by the way, because it's just you double the number of counters. It's not like it has to go 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 8. It can go 2, 4, 5, 10. So he does speed up that, and it puts on each attacking creature, which means that he swings in for 5 power the first time he attacks. So that's amazing. Master of the Wild Hunt. It's so hard for me to figure out this card. First of all, he's just like a tank of gas. You just play this guy, and then you just immediately have fuel for the rest of the game. As long as they don't kill him the first turn, he gets you a 2/2, and then he gets you another 2/2, and then another 2/2. He just keeps getting you 2/2s. With them, you can either just attack, which is fine. He swings in for 5 power the first time he attacks. That's the same thing as Fingered Firstborn. Split up between 2 creatures, but that's fine. But generally, you don't really want to attack with him. You want to just pick off their blockers. So that's another useful. It's another way to use him is just basically repeatable removal, which is fine because this deck does not have that much removal. So being able to kill their chump blockers and letting your Timbermaw larvas in, not the worst thing in the world. And he just basically keeps adding power to the board. So he's not the most aggressive card, but he's really still aggressive enough that I think he makes the cut. Obviously, in the other version of the deck, you want like 12 of these guys, but. Anyway, Obstinate Baloth is just so good. He's just a 4/4 for 4, which is fine. But he gains you 4 life, so that's just another thing that benefits. And then if they play like a Liliana Spectre, then you're really happy. Primal Hunt Beast. Probably a lot of PPL don't run this card. The reason I run this card is because, first of all, he's really good in the 2 matchups where your opponent has a lot of removal, aka Born of Flame and Obedient Dead, which are 2 of the best decks in the game. So you need to plan up. If your deck can't beat any of those decks, then you basically just lost. Anyway, most of the creatures in this deck are really, really oversized. You just like scrolled around, it's just like, oh wow, yeah, all this creature, like you'd think that you'd get a smaller creature for what you're paying for. So this guy is kind of the opposite. For 4 mana, you want at least 4 power. This guy only has 3 power. So what that means is that your opponents don't really want to block this guy, they're going to be blocking the gigantic guy standing to the left of them. So these guys can't afford to be a little undersized. I don't know if that logic is like 100, like it makes sense in my head. I don't know if it will be transferable and if people will understand it also, but basically since your other guys are so big, they're the ones who are going to be blocked, and if the fact that these guys are a little undersized they make up for the fact for that because they have hexproof. So anyway, Timbermaw Larva is just like the reason why I want to run this deck as an aggro deck. This guy just 4 mana swing in for at least 6, almost always 7 the first time, and then if you top deck it later, or if you just keep swinging in with it, you're just going to be basically, this card says either tap, your opponent loses the game if they don't sacrifice a creature. If they don't block you, they lose. The problem is he's a little vulnerable to removal because he's only got 2/2 when he's not attacking, so that kind of sucks. Anyway, a couple of pack leaders, a couple of stomp howlers, and 1 sentinel spider. Those cards, these 5-drop 4/4s, are obviously a 4/4 is just big enough, and it'll just be able to destroy most decks, like most decks creatures. It's that powerful. But like the fact that they all do different things and that they all benefit you are really, really awesome. This guy lets you draw cards, which is insane. Almost all of your creatures will activate him, except for like the larva, I think, and then the kudzu. But other than that, and then maybe these guys if you play them. I don't know, by the time you're playing them, you're pretty much going to be able to. But other than that, like every card in the deck activates his ability, so you're just going to be able to draw cards, which just gives you unlimited gas. Not only that, they're usually pretty wary of this card, so they kind of try to kill it as much as possible, which is fine because you don't care if they're using their removal on your 4/4 because you have a 7/7 attacking, or even just like another 4/4, or this guy, or Chameleon. Like all your cards just do so much more work than this guy that it's fine. Then there's the Stomp Howler, who's amazing. He's not always a 2-for-1, but when he is, it basically wins you the game. Sure, sometimes you're just going to be destroying a medallion, but that's still useful. I mean, turn 5, they probably got a little use out of the medallion, but they want more use out of it. And the fact that he's still a 4/4 means that it's not like you need to use the ability for him to be beneficial and impactful in the game. Anyway, the spider is really good because sometimes your opponents are just annoying and they have flyers, and you want to just be able to stabilize pretty quickly. Additionally, he just has vigilance, which is pretty good. So yeah. Then there's Vorpede, which is just like, oh, this card is insane. Visual is trample, undying, like just everything. Undying makes it come back if you didn't know. So when it dies, it just comes back to the battlefield, +1/+1 counter. It's just obviously an amazing card, and then that's the end of the curve. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that deck, but as I'm talking, I'm just going to be putting in the cards that go in the other one. I think I have one of these in there. I can't remember. Sorry. But anyway, it's just going to be a lot of clicking A here. I can't remember if I put the Stomper in. But yeah, okay. So it's just, there's so many. I think I took one of these guys out, and probably both of these. I'll actually go look and make sure. But anyway, the deck, it just gets gets silly when you play it like this, but it's still really, really powerful. So I still need to make a couple of cuts here. I can't remember which cards I took out. Did I take out Chameleon Colossus? I don't think so. Maybe I took out like one of these. I don't know. But either way, the other version of the deck is extremely aggressive. So when you run it aggressively, you want to be ending the game pretty early. When you run it this way, you want to end the game a little bit later, and you want to be able to basically get to your silly combos. So when you play your Primeval Titan and you have a Rampaging Baloth on the battlefield, then you get 2 extra 4/4s. When you have 7 plant tokens, they all get 2 +1/+1 counters and become 2/3s. So those kind of things are the synergies that the deck has when you actually include it. Obviously, there are still synergies that I'm leaving out in Boundless Realms, which you just search for an insane amount of cards and you just put them all on the battlefield. And then the cuts that I had to make in order to build the deck this way were mainly because I really just could not fit. I think I actually had an extra pack leader in and one of these guys out. But the cuts that I had to make to build the deck this way were necessary. Obviously, they're not ideal, but they're basically just necessary. And then there's just one more card, so it can either be like a Chameleon Colossus or Genesis Wave or Master of the Wild Hunt. The reason why Genesis Wave is not that good is because for it to get the most use, you want to be playing it for 5 or 6, so you need to be paying 8 or 9 mana. So that's really way, like, even this deck just tops out at 7, and sometimes it gets to way more mana than that. But so sometimes Genesis Wave is really useful, sometimes not. But you want to be able to hit your 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to hit one of your 4, 6 drops pretty easily. I think I actually also had the Terror Stomper in. Just basically, when you play your gigantic guy, you want the game to end very shortly afterwards. So it cuts off the curve here, the other deck, but it wins the game a little bit sooner. So that's definitely good. I can't believe I can't figure out what I got that I don't have here. Maybe I messed up the number. No, I don't think I did that. Yeah, so I had Genesis Wave in the... oh, Fangren Firstborns. There we go. Wow, I could not... I don't know why I didn't see that guy. But yeah, that guy, he's really good in aggressive decks. But the thing that you want to be doing with your other deck, your slow deck, your ramp deck, is you want all your creatures, you basically want to stall the game. So that's why I took the companions out, because they just get killed by they're not very good blocking. They're very good attacking, not very good blocking. Ultimate Tracker still makes it because he slows your opponents down. Lightning Greaves is just insane because it gives Shroud. Like, the other deck is more of the haste, this deck is more the Shroud. And then I think it's really cool that they included this card. You want not as many ramp cards as you can, but you want the Nature's Lures over these Emerald Medallions, because the Nature's Lures allow you to cast your Balos quicker, which is, I mean, not really quicker, but for less mana, and they help you with their Primal Cruxes where the other ones do not. So sometimes it also really helps because you have some stuff like this, Forest you control whenever Forest enters the battlefield, whenever Forest enters the battlefield. So those kind of things, they really help, and obviously Dungro Velder also. So that's why you usually you want to run the ramp spells that actually give you lands as opposed to ramp spells, which just make stuff cost less. Obviously these Primordial Hydras will still win you the game, so you want to include them. This guy, he gets pretty big pretty quickly. You don't have to run him. You can run something else if you want to, but I think he's pretty good. He's pretty good at stalling even in this deck. And then the Cultivates are amazing for this deck because you want to be janking. No, okay, so you take 2 lands out of your deck, which means you draw lands less often. You put one of them onto the battlefield, so it does ramp you, and you have 2 things that you can landfall with, so if you draw them late game, then they're still live draws, so that's amazing. Anyway, Dungro Velder is really powerful still, obviously. He's just as good on the defense as he is on the offense. He's hexproof, target that they can't destroy, and really helps out. The Baloths are just like, they shut decks down like there's no tomorrow. Like, even the Exalted deck is like, I can't attack into that thing. That thing's too big. I mean, obviously, it's got like 7 guys out, but it just makes them have to not attack. And if they don't put pressure on you, then this guy still wins the game in 5 turns if they don't do anything about it. So there's that. This guy is also, he's just a 4/4 for 4, so that's good enough, and he wins the game against the black matchup. This deck really does not perform too well against mono black, because if mono black gets to their big drops actually win the game a little bit better than you. A Reaver Demon kills all of these things, and Massacre Worm just destroys you. Don't get Massacre Wormed after playing Hell of the Night pack. I did this. Played Primeval Titan turn 6, or not even turn 6, it was probably like turn 5, but I played my Primeval Titan, got my lands, swung in with my Primeval Titan. So at this point I had played a land drop, swung in with my got my Primeval Titan out, so that's land drop 9. Then I swung in with it, so that's 11 of these guys. Then I played them all, got 11 guys. Turns out, untaps, plays Massacre Worm. I knew that there was one card in the deck that would win him the game, and it was Massacre Worm, and he had it. So there you go. It was really unfortunate because I was at 20. Like, I had so much time, but then all of a sudden I was just like, nope, I'm at 0. The game is literally just over. Master of the Wild Hunt is great. He slows their little weenie guys down by just like trading off wolves with them, or he can just block. He's a 3/3, which isn't terrible, but it's not really too great. But he just makes a chump blocker every turn, so that's kind of amazing. Obstinate Baloth is awesome. Gains you 4 life, is a 4/4, only costs 4, just amazing, like so useful for you. These Timbermaw Larvas, a little bit counterintuitive. I just had a really hard time taking them out of the deck because they're so powerful. They just pack so much of a punch that they just kill your opponents really quickly. Not only that, if you take them out, there's really not too many 4-drops that you want to be running instead of them. Arguably, you could run Primal Hunt Beast because it's slightly more defensive in that it can block, but even in the fact that they just have to deal with the Timbermaw larva, it's good. Also, just because of the fact that it deals with forests as well, if you're ramping, then it still benefits from it. So this card is less of the stall-y part of the deck and more of the endgame part of the deck. It just comes on turn 4 because that's how strong this card is. Garrick's Pack Leader is again, it's a little bit more important than the Stomp Howler because Stomp Howler is just like towards the end of the game where like the artifacts that were like a hindrance earlier don't really matter anymore because you're just like next turn slamming Primeval Titan and then next turn slamming Howl the Night Pack for 20 wolves or 20 or wolves, whatever. Anyway, Spider's still good. You could also figure out ways like cut one of these guys, put in a Spider, and that's fine. Vorpede is still like obviously amazing. Primal Crux is then like once you get to 6, this is your end game. Primal Crux, Primeval Titan is more like support endgame, but he's still a 6/6 trample himself. This guy just makes billions of dudes. 8/8 trample, so hard to deal with. Can't even counter it. Blues just hates it. And then there's this, and then Howl the Night Pack. You only want to run one Howl the Night Pack mainly if you're running Genesis Wave. If you take out Genesis Wave, you can run another Howl the Night Pack because this only works with permanents. So then if one of your Howl the Night Packs goes away when you like Genesis Wave for 10 mana, then you're just really sad. I don't really think I need to talk about the bad cards in the deck. I guess I'll go through it and see if there's any cards like Blanchwood Armor. I guess I'll talk about because I know a lot of people like that card, but it's an aura, and there's a lot of instant speed removal going around in this format. Unsummon, repulse, all that kind of stuff kills Blanchwood Armor instantly. If your opponent's playing red deck, they have Searing Spears, which can kill it in response to Blanchwood Armor being equipped. Obviously, once it's equipped, then the red deck has just no chance of beating this card. But and then the black deck just completely just destroys this card. Both white decks have instant speed removal that they can deal with. Well, no, one of them is instant speed removal. One of them has like a lot of O-rings and Journey Nowhere's pacifism. All that kind of stuff deals with this. 2-for-1s you. So basically, you play this card, you have the huge risk of being 2-for-1, which kind of sucks. But what you can say about it that's beneficial is the fact that it immediately gives your creature a bonus. If you play it on a creature that's already been out for a turn, then it can just immediately attack for a lot more damage. So that's good. But Debor is just terrible. Like, even if you want to stall, it's really bad for stalling, so you don't want to run it. We talked about all these cards. Wildheart Invoker is an interesting card because he kind of fits in the he's sort of like a middle ground. He has the bottom ability, which is tap 8 and your guy gets gigantic and trample, so that's awesome. And other than that, he's a 4-cost 4/3, so he's kind of mana efficient, but not extremely mana efficient. He's not like bigger than everything else, and he's also has that endgame ability, so you don't really want him in the aggro deck because you won't be able to use his bottom ability, and he's a tiny bit undersized. Like, he's not really undersized, but he's just not oversized like the rest of your guys. And then in the other deck, the ability's good, but you already have enough fatties, and he doesn't really win you, like the other guys win you the game just as much. And Queen, I kind of want to put in, but its impact is just so minimal. It's really good against mass removal, but most of the mass removal is like Mutilator and Infest, which Mutilate will kill your bigger creatures, but not until later in the game. And Infest obviously won't kill your creatures. Flame Break won't kill your creatures. Earthquake will, but it has to be for a ton. And hopefully by then you've whittled them down to the point where they can't even afford to Earthquake for that much life, or that well they lose the life for that. And then there's like Day of Judgment, but nobody runs Celestial Light anyway. So Bountiful Harvest is terrible. Incremental Growth is just, it's not good enough. It has to target 3 different things. So sometimes you're going to be like giving them a counter, and you're just like, eh. And then it only adds 6 power to the board for 5 mana. So, like, I mean, I guess it's not terrible. This guy only adds 4 power, but all your other 5 drops do better things than that guy does. Predatory Rampage is like, this card is so good, but it's also, it's just like, why don't my creatures get trample? Just give my creature trample and I'll run this card. But otherwise, it's really good. I don't know. It's just an enchantment for 6 mana, so there's almost no way I'm gonna run that card anyway. And then there's like Colony Hydra, who's just a 6-cost 8/8 basically. He's almost never cast for any cheaper than that. And like, even if you do, then by then, if you top deck him late and you already have a bunch of creatures out, then chances are your hand's empty, so you can afford to pay the 8 mana, and it doesn't matter. So he's just another 8/8 trample that you don't really need. Biorhythm, ha ha ha. That's Biorhythm. Okay, so that is pretty much it. go check out the video. Man, I really wanted to do this video quickly, and I'm 32 minutes in. Curses. Okay, so go check out the video on top tier tactics to see my actual deck list, although I'm pretty sure this is exactly the same. I think that you should really go check those out. It would be awesome for me, awesome for Wing and Wingspan TT, the guy who basically runs top tier tactics, which is awesome. He's like, don't even just look at my article. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me, hey, Daisho, can you do a deck guide for this? He's already done like 4 deck guides, and they're so easy to follow, obviously, because he goes and breaks them down each card at a time. I did this also for the article that I wrote, but gives it a score 0 to 5 and talks about the deck, gives it a score 0 to 5, then at the end he goes ahead and gives you the deck list. And this is how I run my deck, and I've had success with it. So obviously proven methods of success are always awesome, and you guys should definitely go check it out. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the article. Link will be in the description. Go check it out. Have a wonderful day. Bye.